Want to get this briefing by email? Here's the sign up. Good evening. Here's the latest. Todd Heisler, New York Times. 1. The Air Force failed to enter the Texas gunman's domestic assault charge into a database that would have prevented him from buying a gun. The gunman, Devin P. Kelley, was apparently motivated by a domestic situation. His mother-in-law attended the church he attacked, and he had sent threatening messages, a police spokesman said. In 2012, he was convicted of attacking his wife and infant stepson, fracturing the child's skull and leading to his bad conduct discharge from the Air Force. Today on our podcast, The Daily, we discuss the shooting, the community and its faith. We're also collecting advice from people who have survived or been affected by mass shootings or other attacks. Doug Milster, New York Times. 2. In Tokyo, President Trump urged Prime Minister Shinzo Abe of Japan to protect his country from a nuclear-armed North Korea, by buying billions of dollars worth of American weapons. Above, the two leaders feeding the koi at Akasaka Palace. Mr. Trump heads to South Korea next. Then it's on to Beijing for a crucial meeting with President Xi Jinping, who wants the U.S. to acknowledge China as its equal on the world stage. Al Drago for the New York Times. 3. We went to the leafy suburbs of northern New Jersey, where property values are high, local taxes keep climbing, and residents are furious about the Republican tax plan. To voters in high-tax states like New Jersey, New York and California, the deduction for state and local taxes is sacrosanct. But the Republican bill would eliminate the deduction, and undo or sharply limit others, in order to raise revenue. Voter anger over the tax plan could endanger Republicans in those places, maybe even putting the party's majority in Congress in peril. Above, Representative Kevin Brady of Texas, the House's chief tax writer, Andrew Tester for the New York Times. 4. Revelations continue from the Paradise Papers, a trove of leaked documents from an offshore firm used to hide wealth. As Apple's tax structure, and its reliance on Ireland, came under scrutiny, the tech giant moved to the small English island of Jersey, above. And a Russian oligarch was able to sidestep regulations to register his jet in the U.S., with the help of a Utah bank. Khalid Abdullah. Reuters. 5. Saudi Arabia charged that Iran had committed a blatant act of military aggression by providing its Yemeni allies with a missile fired at the Saudi capital over the weekend. Iran denied that it provided the missile and accused the Saudis of waging a war of aggression and regional bullying. The Saudi coalition hit the Yemeni capital, Sana'a, with the most intense airstrikes in a year after the missile was intercepted. Above, the aftermath. The force behind the Saudi campaign is Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, 32, who ordered a midnight blitz of arrests of dozens of the most influential figures in the kingdom over the weekend. It was presented as a crackdown on corruption, but also allows him to consolidate his control. Brian Anselm for the New York Times. 6. In recent years, more than a dozen universities have acknowledged their historical ties to slavery. But the Princeton and Slavery Project, unveiled Monday, stands out for the depth of its research. The project's website includes hundreds of primary source documents and articles exploring slavery-related funding, student demographics and the history of racial violence on a campus long known as the most culturally Southern in the Ivy League. Princeton's history is American history writ small, said Martha Sandweiss, above, the history professor who led the project. From the beginning, liberty and slavery were intertwined. Sam Hodgson for the New York Times. 7. There are important elections on Tuesday in New York City, New Jersey and Virginia, among other places. Here's our guide to the New York area races. Mayor Bill de Blasio, above, is expected to win re-election handily. On the eve of the vote, he gave a speech that focused on his opposition to the Republican tax plan and well-being the New Jersey governor's race closely. 2. Lieutenant Gov. Kim Wadenia, who was Gov. Chris Christie's second-in-command, is running against Philip D. Murphy, a former Wall Street banker. In Virginia, the Democratic candidate, Lieutenant Gov. Ralph S. Northam, is expected to prevail in his bid for governor. But the Republican opposing him, Ed Gillespie, has veered sharply right and tightened the race recently. Paul Joseph Froster, New York Times 8. Before Metu, there was, I believe, Anita. But why is this spate of UAL harassment allegations different from all the others? That's the question our new gender editor, Jessica Bennett, asks in this essay. We have seen this before, she writes. But this sequel seems to have a surprise ending, or at least a plot twist. The public outrage is deeper and more sustained, and the dominoes continue to fall. Ms. Bennett is the first person to occupy this newly created position, and as she gets started, she'd like to hear from readers. Submit your questions and comments here. Above, Anita Hill's 1991 testimony, Chang W. Lead, New York Times 9. Olympic officials are considering banning Russia's flag and anthem from next year's Winter Games in response to its doping violations. With less than 100 days to go before the Pyeongchang Games begin in South Korea, Olympic officials are under intense pressure to announce some punishment. Other ideas floated included having Russian athletes compete under a neutral flag. A decision is expected to be made on December 5, when the executive board meets. Above, Russian athletes at the 2014 Games in Sochi, Tiffany Rouhani, Team Coco 10. Finally, among this scrum of late-night hosts, Conan O'Brien is not earning the highest ratings or generating the most talk. But our critic says that his show has become more distinctive than ever, doubling down on comedy for comedy's sake. O'Brien suddenly seems like not only the sole host in the time slot, truly desperate to make you laugh, but also the most willing to take artistic risks, our critic writes. Judge for yourself. Conan will be shooting at the Apollo Theater this week, as part of the New York Comedy Festival, 11 p.m. on TBS. Have a great night. Your evening briefing is posted at 6 p.m. Eastern. And don't miss your morning briefing, posted weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern, and your weekend briefing, posted at 6 a.m. Sundays. Want to catch up on past briefings? You can browse them here. If photographs appear out of order, please download the updated New York Times app from iTunes or Google Play. What did you like? What do you want to see here? Let us know at briefing@nytimes.com.